Good morning. Welcome back to the Let's Talk segment on the Second Chance. My name is Philip Jones.
And my name is Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. If you or you know someone who has kidney disease challenges and they need coaching with their challenges, hit us up at kidneycarecoaches.com. Today, we got a great article, and this one hits home, especially to Phil and I. We can both relate to this situation, and so many others out there can relate to this also. So, this article is about actress Sarah Hyland. She says she felt suicidal after her first kidney transplant failed, but covered up the pain because she didn't want to seem pathetic. And I understand how that goes. So I'm just going to read this small little article about this young lady. Sarah Hyland says she felt suicidal after her first kidney transplant failed. The Modern Family actress, 31 years old, has kidney dysplasia, which affects the structure of the organ. And she recalled how low she felt having to undergo dialysis 3 times a week after her body rejected the first donated organ she had received. That's where I felt suicidal, she said. I would avoid going into organ rejection and being on dialysis at all costs, she said during her Monday episode of the Quitter podcast. She recalled, just energetically, I was like, this is just so hard for me to do anymore. And it would just be easier for everyone else too. Highland was Highland, who has since undergone a second and successful transplant, did her best to put on a show because she didn't want to be seen as weak and pathetic. And I can relate to that. She added, when you have grown up your entire life healthy without having health issues and always being, oh, with having health issues and always being in pain. Sorry about that. You have to learn how to have thick skin, put on the show. The actress pointed out that otherwise you're just going to be looked at really weak and pathetic and a sad person. That's what she said. Hyland also expressed that she was not looking for sympathy while speaking out about her health issues. I don't like to be victimized. I don't like other people to victimize me. I had almost 27 years of putting on a show, whether it was on Broadway or in a family's living room. That's what she said. So let me just go into this article. This is big, man, because I lost my first kidney also, and uh, I didn't want to say I felt suicidal, but I did feel depressed. I felt like kind of, that I failed. I felt like I failed, even though the doctors told me, hey, your old disease came back into this kidney and it started attacking this kidney. It could have been a situation where they said my sister might have had a little bit of glomerulonephritis also. I had a doctor say that to me. You know, Before that, I even, messed up one time and got in rejection because I didn't take my medicine like it was prescribed. I was young at the time. I was in my, early 20s at the time. So, but I did feel, depressed, didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to do anything when I lost that kidney and had to go on dialysis. Phil, what's your thoughts on this?
For me, I think a lot goes through our mind when we get into that situation. And most of the time, uh, for some odd reason, we end up putting that blame on ourselves, even when we kind of know it's not our fault, whether it's just us knowing or doctors come to us and officially tell us, hey, this wasn't you. It was XYZ reasons why it happened. And so after that point, our mind kind of goes through this thought process. For me, um, I and to this day, I honestly I still say the same thing. Had I taken that loan scholarship that was given to me for track, I probably wouldn't be in this situation because I wouldn't have been able to go to the transplant games that year, which means that I wouldn't have been in the situation that I was in, to put me in a position of having to lose my kidney. So I it was a half scholarship, but then I mean this is my full life. So um for me, nowadays really I'm just trying to think like I'm trying to get that thought process out of my head, but it's hard because as you said, you fight so much, to make sure you keep it and things of that nature. You staying adherent and things of that nature, going to your appointments and making sure during recovery process you clean your incisions and things like that correctly, so you get no infections. And it's a whole list of that stuff that we go through in this position to make sure that we can keep this. So when you lose it, and especially when, again, like I said, when it's not your fault, it hurts that much. I think we probably would be able to deal with it better if we were just like, okay, I messed up. I messed up. I did, and just get back on point with my stuff and get back it. But it hurt when it's not your fault. You like, why did you go back to the why. I think it just kind of teleports you back to that why question. Why did
Let
it
me
have to
let
happen?
me ask you this though. Let me ask you this though. When it did happen, just like with myself, I had to learn about I started peritoneal when my kidney failed, and I did that for 6.5 years, peritoneal dialysis. And but let me ask you this though. Did you feel any depression? As I know right now, I can speak for myself. I felt some depression, man. I felt, like, damn, man, why I gotta keep on going through the same scenario in my life? What's really going on? I was depressed. I didn't want to really hang out with my fellas and kick it anymore. I had to overcome all that. How'd you feel about that?
Oh, definitely I was depressed because I had uh you know different academic plans than I do now at the time. When my kidney rejected, I was in college and doing my thing, trying to get on the move, get these degrees and make things happen. And then I run into this brick wall. So of course I'm like, especially when you got to sit at the hospital day after day after day, after the point. I mean, in those 3 months that I've told you all about before, that seizure right after after rejection and that brain surgery, I think I was only out the hospital maybe about 3 weeks in that 3 months. So I spent a lot of
That's a
time
lot,
just sitting
man.
in the hospital.
That's a that's a lot, man. That's a lot of time. Just like you and I, we talk about our stories. It's crazy, because I remember, when my peritoneal sac burst on my side,
Mm,
and I didn't want to blame the doctors, but when I found out, like, I was doing manual peritoneal dialysis at the time, and the doctor told me start using 3,000 series bags. 3,000. Those bags are big, man, and
huge.
huge. And I'm using them. And I'm still training my clients and everything. And then I look down one day, and my whole side of my body is just disfigured because all this fluid is on my side, and
Right.
I got septics right there. I had to stay in the hospital for, I never forget, man. I had to stay in the hospital for 36 days. I got out and had to go back in 3 days later and spend another 32 days. And it was like, I'm telling you, what was so crazy about that situation was it had its positives and negatives. Staying that much time, that was almost 70 days in the hospital at the time. It felt like I lived there, man. I've seen people coming and going just like a shopping center. I've seen people come in, get
Right.
surgery, be on my floor, and then go. You go in my
Hmm.
room, it felt like I lived there, man. You seen my books, my clothes.
Right.
I had everything there like I lived at the hospital. But one thing I can honestly say about that is it prepared me to get my big transplant because at
Mm,
John Hopkins I had to stay there close to almost 70, 80 days. I can't remember what it was because I had to stay 30 days after my transplant because they had to watch
right.
me because of the situation. But it prepared me for that. So everything has its positives and negatives if you want to look at it like that. But staying in the hospital like you did, man, having brain surgery and all the other surgeries you had, me having my challenges also, depression does sit in, and it feels like you in the show, just like this girl said, Sarah. Everybody, every time you turn around, how you doing? How you feel? How you feel? And what I would tell people sometimes is, to myself, I'll be like, I feel good, just to keep it going. But people can't relate to what you feel like, what you're going through.
Yeah, and just to do a quick show and tell moment real quick for us. Um, for those of you who don't know, kind of understand what we're talking about 3 liter bags, 2 liter dialysis bags, so you can get a visual of how much fluid was being placed in Mr. Cook. Right, this is a 2 liter bag, and I just only it's
Right.
empty because I just got done doing my dialysis. But this is a 2 liter bag, so add another liter to this, and this is what he was walking around with and going to do his his training and things of that nature for his clients and stuff like that. That's a lot of fluid to be
Man, it
placed on
was.
top of what you drink.
Right. That's huge. And you know what, Phil, what's so crazy about it? And that's why I was kind of like, I'm in the hospital, septics, man. I'm coming from 235. I went down to 170 pounds, man, sick as I don't know what. And the doctor looks at my script. He goes, you're taking 3,000 liter bags? I go, yeah. He go, why was you doing that? I go, well, the doctor told me that the 25, the 2,000, he moved me 2,000 to 2,500 to three. And he said I needed more dialysis. I was doing it 5 times a day. And he said, you need to start using 3,000 bags because you needed more dialysis fluid. That's what he said. And, in training people with this much fluid on you, and I'm kind of active because when you're training people, you got to be active. You got to show people how to
Right,
exercise.
right.
You got to still demonstrate stuff like that. You can't just sit down and be a whack trainer. I didn't know, I didn't know no difference, man. I just knew I had a lot of fluid in me, and
Right,
I'm still training people. And the doctor, when I comes in, he goes, "You shouldn't have never been on no bags that big."
right.
And I'm like, French toast. Somebody should have told me, but nobody told me anything.
That's how
And
I
so,
feel
but we could,
about the Tylenol and
but
Motrin.
right. But with that being said, with that being said, I don't want to play the victim, and I
Right.
know you're not a victim neither. So it is what it is. We learn from that. And you keep on moving. And I'm quite sure everybody in our situation who's had a transplant, who's been on dialysis, who's had any of these things, have been told some information that didn't serve them. I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna say it like that. Would you agree with that?
Definitely 100%. Um, and the one thing that kind of comes to mind in this situation is how to get out of that, how to get out of that depression or that mindset, because uh once it makes that click to being in that self-pity and thinking, well, what if or why, after a certain amount of time it's hard to turn that back off because now you just stuck in it, and so for me, what I've learned, because again, it was like that for a while for me. I was just kind of stuck, even being on dialysis and things. I didn't want to do nothing, you know. I just want to stay in the house, not do nothing, go nowhere, say nothing to nobody. That's how I was pretty much for like 2 years. And then I remember my pops was like, "Man, you need to get out the house and start doing, get back to your regular routine." I'm like, "How you expect me to do that the way I feel?" So I said, I sat down for a minute. Now, sometimes what people need to understand is that sometimes just sitting and thinking is a good thing because you figure stuff out, right?
That's true.
So
That's
I
true.
remember I sat, and for a good minute, I'm like, what can I do to get me back in that, back into that me mode? And so at the time, not too long before that, my uncle had gave me my cousin's car. And, at that time I couldn't drive. I was going through so much, taking so many medications, and someone was saying don't drive and things of that nature. So I would go. What I used to do is I go sit in the car just to get out the house. I go sit in the car, roll the windows down, because I'm in California, so 9 times out of 10 it's cool weather. So I ain't never really worried about rain too much. But so I go sit in the car, and at the time we lived on Crenshaw Boulevard. It was a one-way street, and I just go sit in the car and just listen to music, watch people walk by, watch cars. Like that was my getting out the house. But that's what
Right.
built me back up to be able to start taking walks.
Right.
Going up to the school just to see people. Not having to rely on people to get me to certain place. At that time, I was just like, I like the bus because I was able to do that. Before it was like I need to call any and everybody if I need to go do some shopping or something, like, hey, come get me. But once I started doing that, I was able to get myself back into me mode. So, my number one, my advice for that is, like Bella just said, get some movement.
Agree.
That's pretty much it. You
Movement.
need
Right.
to be able to get yourself back in that movement mode and doing what you normally do, whether it's
Right.
walking dogs or walking to the store, whatever the case may be. You have to gradually get back into that because once you do that, you'll start seeing a lot of things. We talk about this, and it's crazy how all this stuff connects, right? We talk about nutrition, physical activity, things of that nature, right? So once
Hmm.
that physical activity part of you changes, getting up, walking, the your appetite will change. You'll become you'll be able
Hmm.
to eat more and absorb more nourishment and things like that. To be able to make that transition into trying to go get a kidney or whatever organ you need to go get, because it's those things are very important in that process, right? So after Mr. Cook is done, we're gonna take a look at Dr. Brookins' 5 steps to transplant, and we'll probably come back another day and really kind of dive deep into it. Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
Well, I just want to, point out this last part of, the article we talked about.
Mm.
Sarah, she said she felt suicidal, and I never felt suicidal, but I keep it real. There were times where I questioned my life, like, I'm on dialysis. You know, I still had a lot of things going for me when I was on dialysis. Again, I had my own fitness studio. I was handling stuff, but still, there was still I felt there was a missing piece in my life. And what I meant by that, at that age at the time, I had a lot of friends getting married, getting engaged, having kids and moving on with their life. And it felt like I was just stuck, So I can understand, where the suicidal part comes in because you start questioning life when you're going through so much. And I could see Sarah saying this because, again, you'd be like, what am I doing here? If I gotta just keep on doing this,
Right.
what I got, what's the benefit, But again, this was a good article. I'm glad you and I can, we can both relate to this. There was both of us at one time lost our kidney function after we had transplants, so we understand what she's going through with this, and we can understand what other people are going through. And we just wanted to bring this to your attention that you can't feel depressed, anxiety, have these challenges when your kidney or your health isn't working, and especially after you get a life-saving organ and then that organ fails, and those can be really really challenging. And that's all we wanted to say. Go ahead, Phil. Start with the 5 steps of Miss Brookins' information.
All right. Before I make that transition, there's one more thing I want to add to all this when we talk about depression and stuff, right? If you find yourself falling into that, the best thing honestly you can do is talk to somebody. Don't be afraid to talk
Right,
to somebody,
right,
because you'd be surprised at what just, even if it's a little bit or gradually coming out with stuff, right? How much talking to them, releasing it to somebody, and being able to get
right.
some positive feedback of those
Get it
words,
off your chest.
right? Get it off your chest, right? So definitely, find someone. And look, here's the thing. I'm not a person that likes to make people think that they have nobody to talk to, which is why I always put myself out there for people to come talk to me. It was crazy because I hate talking about my own problems 9 times out of 10. But I don't mind helping people with theirs. I've learned to make that adjustment in my life where I do talk to people. I mean, we talk. I talk to Edward. I talk to Will. I talk to a number of people about a number of things that I wouldn't talk about at first. So, and believe me, without being able to talk to a number of these people, Jonathan Trailer and things of that nature, people of those, in those areas, it's done a lot for me because I wouldn't be in a position I'm in if I still had all that weight on me. You got to get that weight off. It's the only way that you're gonna be able to function correctly to get to a transplant. So um, I'm going to let me bring this back up. See if I can try to. I don't know if I can make it bigger. All right. Well, let me see. Make sure. Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. So step one of this action plan is one, gather your EGFR, which is your kidney function values for the past 2 to 3 years. Next is check to see if your values dropped by over 15 in 3 years. So in those 2 to 3 years that you check, you need to make sure that it has not dropped over 15. Discuss your kidney transplant goals with your nephrologist. Because at the end of the day, that's really the only person that can make this happen because they have to, put a referral in and things of that nature. Even if you're having your transplant at, your medical facility, it still has to be a referral when gone through to the transplant coordinator and things of that nature. Transplant coordinator can't move forward with talking to you until they get an okay from the nephrologist. So that's why, we try to make sure we let you guys know have a great rapport with your doctor. I have a great relationship with my doctor, my nephrologist. My nephrologist is my kidney doctor as well as my personal physician. So, um, it's 2 for 1, which is a great thing for me. Decide your transplant center of choice, right? Do your research. We mentioned that a lot. Do your research. Be a self advocate. Get the information you need. My first transplant when I was a pediatric was at UCLA. This one that I'll hopefully will be getting soon will be Cedar Sinai Medical Center, which I'm in the process now of getting this evaluation done. So hopefully all this stuff happens very quickly. See next. Step 2: prepare to travel for a visit with transplant nephrologist. Some offer remote consultation, which means um, video call, so uh, Zoom or something like that, or if your medical facility has their own video chat software. Like I know ours out here, my facility out here, one of the many is Kaiser. I just had a video call with my doctor last week. It was on their actual system. So, definitely look at that if that's an easier way for you to go. Gather up the date information on your medical history, surgical history, and social history. That should all be in your medical file. Um, if nothing else, most of that stuff should just be up here, anyways. Not necessarily always will you need the exact date, but the month and the year, is something good to kind of have access to. I just say, if your medical facility has a online service, which they all should have at this point by now, be connected to that. Have a profile on there so you can get to all that stuff. So when you need it, all you gotta do, print it out, bring it with you, or if nothing else, when you go to an evaluation or appointment or something like that, you can just look it up on your phone. Receive your recommendations as an ideal candidate or not an ideal candidate. So that's what I'm saying from your nephrologist. Why you need to have a good relationship with your nephrologist. because they're the one that's going to say, you know, ideal, not ideal, and be able to refer you to your transplant coordinator so they can get that part of the ball rolling to get you to the evaluation process of your medical facilities of choice for your transplant. If you are considered not an ideal candidate, make sure to understand why for reconsideration. And what that means is if they tell you no, find out if it's your blood pressure, find out if it's your labs, find out if it's your weight, things that, I mean, they should be telling you this anyways, but I forgot who it was. I think it actually was Bella, I think, that said they always take notes when they go to the doctor. Take your phone, take your notepad,
Take
those things.
somebody else with you.
Take right. Take, if you have a bad memory or just your handwriting is horrible, anything like that, take somebody else with you so that they can gather the information that you may miss, because you don't want to miss nothing. It's okay. Step three. I'm trying to speed through this so we don't take up too much time. Like I said, we'll get in depth in this at a later date. Step three: prepare your schedule to meet with other members of the transplant team. So if you've had one already, which is what we're kind of talking about now with today's show, then you should kind of know what the transplant team consists of. Um, Complete lab testing for immunity profile. Finish imaging tests to evaluate various organs. Meet with mental health and social work specialists. Some offer remote. So basically, what will happen with that is the social worker of the team will call you. Whether it's if you're in dialysis, then 9 times out of 10, you probably have a team already that has a social worker in it. I know I do. My team consists of my nephrologist, my social worker, their nutritionist, and a pharmacist. So um, that was one of the first people who called me was the social worker to do that part. So that's why we make sure, not just your nephrologist, make sure you have a great rapport with everybody on your team. Discuss plans with financial counselor. Not everybody rolling around the door. Not everybody has the best insurance, and they understand that. So they try to put you in a position to still be able to um, get the health care that you need and be able to pay for it without it breaking your pockets and putting you in a hole. So if you need to, ask, hey, can I talk to a financial counselor? Is it, a way that I can talk to them to figure out X, Y, Z, whatever your questions are about that. Um, this should be step four. Okay, step four. Portfolios presented to the transplant review committee. Uh, Results will be sent to you and explained by a transplant nephrologist. If denied, express interest in reconsideration by deadline. So don't waste no time. As soon as you find out what that date is, and you can fix whatever the issue is by that deadline and thing. Uh, inquire about that and let them know, hey, I want to get this back going again. I'm in the process of making these changes, or I've already done them, or whatever the case may be. So you can, try to get on the list. Step five, celebrate your approval of joining the wait list. Get creative with your search for a living kidney donor. Don't look past anything in the sense of ways to look for a living kidney donor. If you got the money to put a helicopter in the sky that says I'm looking for a living donor, you know, then you do that, or walk around, your neighborhood with flowers or something. I don't know, but think of some creative. Some people have done bus stop benches, radio talk shows, TV talk shows, um, you know, flyers, church, school, just social media. I mean, it's a list of ways that you can go looking for a living kidney donor, right? So, sit down, talk to your family, figure out the best way and ways you think will be more effective for you to be able to find a living donor. Carefully avoid changes in your immunity. Refer potential living donor to your transplant center. So when you're doing that, uh, the transplant center information should already be on there. You don't want to put your personal information on there because one, that's a waste of time. I mean, like to them trying to call you when they could just go directly to the transplant center and say, "Hey, I want to get tested for, John Jacobs and whatever the case may be, to see if I'm a match or whatever." As opposed to calling you and then making another phone call, just put the transplant center information there, um, so they can go straight to them to get the process started. Consider being listed at more than one transplant center. Me and Mr. Cook have talked about this a number of times as well. Um, you know, Being listed at more than one transplant center is uh, is a very smart thing to do if you can do it. Because the one thing I do know is that let me say this: the insurance out here in California, right? Um, the rule is basically your insurance only covers and maybe that just may be the medical facility that I'm with, will cover that first evaluation or listing, um, at a transplant center. So you may have possibly have to pay for, another listing at another transplant center or something like that. So don't just assume that you can just get put on any. Otherwise, everybody be on every list. But also what you have to take into consideration is um, if it's close or if it's far, if you have the ability to get there, if it's a good distance away and things of that nature. So take those things into consideration if you're thinking about more than one transplant center, right? You think about your surrounding medical facilities that do transplants for your specific organ and things like that, and then go from there. I believe that's it. Mr. Cook, you got anything we just went over? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry about that. I think it was great information that everybody needs to take heed to, especially when they're about to get a transplant. So this is great information. Again, the biggest one is if you do get on the kidney transplant list, one of the biggest values that I see is getting on several transplant lists. Do everything you can to get on as many lists as possible. Another thing is be conscious of the dates that they set so you can get these things done at the proper time. A lot of times people wait and procrastinate and eventually these dates up pass them and then they have to start all over. So be conscious of the dates and getting things done in a considerable time. That's all I got to say.
Cool, cool. All right, well, we done. Um, if you're not busy, 6:30 Eastern Time, 3:30 Pacific. Myself, and Mr. Cook, will be on Jenny Gold Show um, on LinkedIn. So just look for Jenny Gold on LinkedIn. And that again, like I said, that's at 3:30 today Pacific Time, 6:30 Eastern. So we hope we see you there. We appreciate you watching today. Everybody that tuned in, commented. If you're watching in the future, we appreciate you. Appreciate your support, your love. We'll see you all. Hopefully it's tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Thursday. We gotta figure out some things. Mr. Cook leaving me again and going on another trip. So we gotta figure out some stuff. So, but we will be having, coming back this week with another show, and make these things work. So, we'll see y'all later.
Peace.